All right, what's up? Wait, is this on right now? Wow, what's up, my wonderful, loyal YouTube fan base? Chatting with Glink in a minute, who is unbanned. Or I'm sorry, who's banned on Twitch, so. Been following on YouTube for a while, just now checking out a live stream. Wow, Alex Stilgenbauer. Get ready to see why you only get the highlights. All right, close enough. We're gonna chat. You're gonna talk to MOBA? I have no idea. Can Google taking 1/3 of this? Wait, do they take 1/3 of super chats? This chat experience is dog shit. Is it worse than Twitch? I have no idea. I don't know. I don't care. Or I guess I should care, huh? Do you drink Soylent? Sometimes for breakfast it's easy to just like have a quick meal like that. Quality of cam looks better, it literally should be exactly the same.
Yo.
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Hey, do I sound fine? Can you hear me fine?
Yeah, you sound just fine.
All right. Hey, what's up? Well, damn, this might seem kind of random, I guess. I feel like I'm an outsider who I'm not really into politics on Twitch or YouTube even, but I have been following your videos for a while now, and we talked before a couple years ago, and I've been following your debacle with kind of your fallout on Twitch and with other streamers. I was watching some of your videos with different people, you talking to Vosh, talking to David Packman, people like that. And I guess I just wanted to offer some perspective maybe and just see what you think about certain ideas, because I think you're in this interesting unique position. Yeah, I guess we'll just go from there.
Sure thing, hit me up. What do you got?
So something I noticed, or something I feel like that is the whole self-defense thing with the Kenosha situation seems to be a watershed moment in, I guess, Twitch live streaming politics. It's a moment where watching you talk to Vosh, watching you talk to David Packman, and a few other people as well, they seem to be very ideologically driven. And this is something you've pointed out before. They're not, I don't know if you'd call it bad faith or whatever, but when you're bringing up these points to them, they're giving responses that oftentimes just don't seem to be very well thought out, and they just kind of seem to be pandering to what is like a Twitter mob mentality. As soon as that shooting happened, I saw everyone on Twitter, white supremacist, this white supremacist was a mass shooter, these kinds of things immediately ascribed. And then people believe that. And most people don't really look into the story too much past the first thing they see.
Past the first, 2 hours, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. And you'd think that, at least I would think, that someone who with such a large following, like the people you were talking to, would be a little bit more responsible, a little bit, slow to come to conclusions, look at the facts. And that's not what I saw, and I don't think that's what you saw.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect them to. I don't think there's any reward for that, but yeah.
And I think the watershed moment here, the divide, is that a lot of people, most people, are not in this for principles. They're not in this for something that's grounded in reality. They're espousing their political beliefs, and they're leading their followers to whatever they think. In a way, they're following something themselves. And by they, I mean, again, Vosh, Pack. I don't necessarily need to call anyone out specifically, but these kind of left-wing political commentators, the popular ones, they're in a way following something themselves. They're following an ideology, and they don't seem to be having any issues with where that's leading them and leading their followers, which I think right now in this moment in the country is pretty dangerous. I think I don't know if you agree. You could tell me if you agree with this, but I feel like we're on a path towards either civil war or some sort of balkanization. Do you think that's true?
I'm not entirely sure where we're headed right now. That's hard to say. I would say that I wouldn't group people like, say, David Pakman in the same category as like Vosh or Hassan. I think they're different people for different purposes. I'd also push back a little bit against the idea that right now, especially in my life, I'm focused on like left-wing creators that cater to the mob and give certain views that are popular for them. But right-wing people definitely do it too, even the center-leaning right-wing people. So I mean, like this is just kind of like the story of internet or capitalist politics, right? Usually you're going to say the things that get you the most views and the most money. That's what I meant earlier when I said there's no reward for being honest. There's a lot more reward for being like inflammatory. You know, truth comes second and entertainment comes first when it comes to online news or any news really.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, it's certainly a problem on the right as well. But I think oftentimes when you point that out, not you specifically, but when someone points that out, I think the label jokingly gets thrown around enlightened centrist or something like that. And
Sure.
I think that's kind of counterproductive because it implies that by recognizing the fact that ideology leads to extremes on either end, your people, call that like fence sitting or enlightened centrism and label it as a bad thing, which again, like I think if we're going to come to some sort of unity or some sort of agreement or understanding and lessen the gap between ideological extremes, lessen the divisiveness, we need people like that. We need people like that to be. It doesn't mean you're not principled. In fact, it's the opposite. It's you're so principled that you're not falling to these ideologies. Do you
Yeah,
think that's
I agree with you 100%. That's desperately what we need, but that's not what we get by people that call themselves centrists. Unfortunately, centrists are oftentimes just as radical as people that are on the radical ends of either the left or the right. I don't think what makes you a radical is how far down the spectrum you are. Rather, it's the tools that you employ to get your message across. So a really good example of a radical centrist, two really good examples, three really good examples, would be somebody like Dave Rubin, Tim Pool, or as of recently, that Brett Weinstein guy. I sat and I listened for 20 minutes to Brett Weinstein just utter and ramble off some unbelievable conspiracy theories related to COVID-19 under the guise of centrism. And like if I was locked in a room with a guy with a gun to my head or whatever, and you would ask me, honest to God, I'd probably consider myself in some ways some kind of a centrist, right? Like I believe in self-defense, I believe in gun rights, I like property rights, I'm a capitalist, right? In some cases, like some people would say, oh, well, this makes you center-leaning. Other ways, I'm pretty far left. But regardless, the problem is that a lot of the people that call themselves centrists, instead of being a centrist as a natural conclusion to your political thought, you've become a centrist because you've arbitrarily decided to place yourself between the left and the right, and you don't care how you get there, and you just want to have the illusion of being superior to both.
Okay, so yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think Dave Rubin definitely gets a bad rap. He's kind of his own can of worms. I think with Dave Rubin, he's honestly just kind of a corny guy who, yeah, he comes off as disingenuous, but I don't know. That's a separate thing. But with
Dave, to be fair, Dave Rubin might actually not be disingenuous. He might just be incredibly stupid, like approaching levels that would like qualify him for like government assistance as a full-time caretaker. That's possible, but I'm trying to make the assumption that most people have like their cognitive faculty intact. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, like he's kind of cringe. That's the main thing I noticed about him. Like he's very cringe, and I don't think he's very self-aware about it.
Sure.
But,
wait, just real quick, because I want to be razor clear in terms of what I think.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that Dave Rubin is cringe. I think he's a dishonest partisan fucking hack that denies how dishonest and partisan he is. I don't think it's just a matter of him being cringe. But we can have a discussion on that later if you want.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So with Brett Weinstein, I have heard. I don't know if I watched the same thing you did, but I have heard his thoughts on the COVID situation. If I'm not mistaken, though, his position is he's not entirely sure what it is. No one isn't, we don't have an entire understanding of the virus, and nor does he. But as I believe he's a evolutionary biologist.
Yep.
He has a theory that it could have been made in a lab. That's kind of his position. What did you hear?
Yeah, that's just totally and completely unsubstantiated. Him having a PhD in evolutionary biology makes him tangentially related. He's not a virologist. He should know better. But like, no credible person is taking seriously the idea that it was made in a lab. There's been one kind of sort of study that has been put out there, not published or peer reviewed, by like a think tank funded by Steve Bannon. But like other than that, nobody is taking seriously the idea that it was made in a lab. And I super push back against this idea, this quote unquote just asking questions, because I think it's one of the most cancerous, like discourse polluting like approaches you can have to politics, right? Like, okay, listen, you remember the guy that jumped off the tower for the big Red Bull dive like 10 years ago or whatever? Yeah, like I'm just saying, I didn't see any curvature of the earth. I'm not saying that the earth is flat. I'm just asking questions. You know, like that kind of stupid shit is so dishonest. And it's a way for you to insert a narrative without you having to actually own anything. Because you can always walk away at the end of the day of your crazy ideas by saying, I'm just asking questions. I don't know. I think it's a really dishonest way of approaching things.
Okay. Well, I'll leave that there for a second. But
Sure.
to go back to the reason I brought up David Pakman actually is because he said something that particularly stood out to me.
Sure.
Which was, I believe it was almost verbatim, something like first principles are a right-wing tactic, or like arguing with first principles are a right-wing tactic. Does that sound right to you? And I thought, and then you pulled up some of the comments from his chat afterwards in the video, and people were. This is something that. You know, the left or whatever you want to call it, I'm sure the people on the right do it too, but this is just something that people do a lot online, which is like they don't actually engage with what an idea is or an argument is. They'll just throw a label on it and associate it with something they don't like. And this is something that the Brett Weinstein types, the Tim Pool types, to their credit, although I wouldn't put them in the exact same camp, but to their credit, this is something that they've been criticizing for years, where people are like, okay, that's homophobic, xenophobic, racist, transphobic, and people were saying the same thing to you, like Destiny is a fascist. People who use these labels so freely and so liberally to the point where it's just a way of saying, I don't like this person and I don't want to engage with what they're saying, and here's my excuse for not engaging with what they're saying, because I don't engage with fascists. And by the way, Destiny is a fascist. And I see that tactic very commonly being used now. And it's like, how can you even reason that, you know, there is no reasoning with someone who thinks that way. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing now with what is the death of freedom of speech, both online and offline. I don't know if do you feel that way as well?
I think that, so in some ways this is a unique problem, and in other ways this is not a unique problem. So we'll start with the more inflammatory part, how it's a unique problem, right? This is the death of freedom of speech. I think there might be a little bit of credence to that, but only because companies are so powerful in terms of how much of the public platform they dictate in terms of speech, and in terms of how much they're willing to buckle and bend over to advertisers that have to neuter messages to be as absolutely 100% friendly to every single person as possible. I think that's a relatively unique. We're at a unique point in history for that because of like how targeted we can be with technology, because of how powerful an individual can be when it comes to canceling somebody. And then because of how global these things are, so how much they have to appeal to everybody. So I think there might be something to explore there. In terms of like an unprecedented era of people trying to label people and censor people, unfortunately, I think that's just the human condition. McCarthy did it. People did it under Obama. How many times has Obama called a socialist or a Kenyan by our current president? Like the idea of using labels to dismiss people, it's one of the reasons why I've always pushed back against political labels. I've always said that as soon as you give a political label, you've got to spend more time explaining what you aren't than what you are. It seems like labels have always been used as a way to kind of like otherize someone or falsely attribute a bunch of bad beliefs to somebody in order to just ignore them or own them. So yeah, I think that there might be some like freedom of speech problems because of the size of kind of like corporate media and social media today, and the desire to buckle to advertisers. But I don't think that it's unique that we're at an area where everybody wants to hate everybody because of a random label they give them.
I agree with your stance on labels. And regarding you mentioned how much corporate power there is and how that involves, how that relates to censorship. What is your stance on, these massive social media companies and tech companies? Should they be beholden? Should they be regulated in any way? Or do you think that they should just exist as private entities and that's it, and do whatever they want?
It's almost like a Citizens United tier question. It's really, really hard to have a good answer. I think there are really good arguments on both sides of this. I think ultimately, at the end of the day, I feel really uncomfortable with the government essentially like, boom, like this is how you have to function, without looking at a whole bunch of other stuff first. I think there's more important stuff in the country that the government should have a hand in building or maintaining or protecting, rather than our right to shitpost on Twitter. I'm being a little bit unfair there. I guess like news and everything is important too, but I don't think at large media is as threatened on Twitter as like workers' rights are around the country or something like that, where the government should probably step in before like Facebook or Twitter. What was the second part of the question?
Well, okay, so I don't know if there was a second part exactly,
yeah.
but well, so this kind of goes back to the whole idea of this kind of relates to COVID, in my opinion, actually, as well, in that, so I have this idea here, and I want to see what you think. I think that COVID, whether this virus is here or not, or whether it left tomorrow or it never came, our way of life is permanently different and was going to be permanently different anyways. For many years now, there was no real good reason to have, a giant office building and people going in just to sit on a computer all day when they can do that remotely. There was no good reason to do a lot of schooling when you could do it online. Many things are just outdated in terms of efficiency and what makes sense logistically for the economy. And technology has allowed us to shift things over to a very remote, a very impersonal way of living. And I think the West, I think America and Europe to some extent have been playing catch up for years to Asian countries like China, like Japan, South Korea, who are way more modernized. Their cities are way more modernized. Their way of life is way more modernized. Everything's so much more transactional there. And I think what COVID is it's ushering in that new, I guess, technocracy, whatever you want to call it, way of life. And it seems like big tech, to me, what policies they have and what direction they take their companies kind of matters more, or is going to matter more than the government. They almost have more power than the government. And that might seem absurd to you, but it kind of goes back to the whole culture versus policy thing. And I think we're seeing that play out right now in terms of, a few years ago, someone like Brett Weinstein, who had the Evergreen situation play out right in front of him, where there was a mob of students getting angry at him for being a white guy who was staying on campus on the day of absence for white people, which he refused to leave. And people, I don't want to throw you in this camp, but I think a lot of people, political commentators, were not seeing the big picture, and we're not saying like, hey, this is going to spill over into, into the country at large. This is going to spill over into society at large. It's just a bunch of radicals on campus. It's never going to be whatever. Just let the kids be kids. I think that kind of dismissive attitude. And I think right now we're seeing that play out in major cities, and we have been. So,
what do you mean by play out in major cities? Can you explain that?
Yeah, so like a lot of this rioting, a lot of the mobs forming and the mob mentality, not just on Twitter, but it's also playing out in like in DC, for example. There was this large group of, I guess, Black Lives Matter activists, most of them white, ironically, who were kind of harassing different patrons at restaurants, sitting outside, and just forcing them to comply, like raise their fist and forcing them to chant with them and say Black Lives Matter, all cops are bastards, that kind of rhetoric. I mean, you've seen clips of that, right?
I haven't, but I believe you. I don't think you'd lie about it. So yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So there's multiple instances of that, the rioting, the looting, and then the kind of turning a blind eye to that I've seen a lot on social media as well. And again, exemplified by people like Vosh and others, who, instead of focusing on the fact that our country is essentially burning down, they're focused on a kid who's practicing self-defense, or at least is arguably practicing self-defense, rather than the businesses burning down that have been burning down for 90 days in the case of Portland, or over 90 days. And so my point is just to say that these big tech companies, they're controlling our communication. They're controlling what we say online and the direction that things go. And I think that culture is more important than policy at the end of the day. Do you agree with that?
I mean, these things probably have like a two-way influence on each other. Like they probably are somewhat circular, but I mean, like I would imagine they would influence each other, right? I don't know if I would say that, like, if it wasn't for SJWs in college campuses, would there not be like black riots? I mean, I don't know. We've had people rioting or protesting the United States over a ton of different issues in the course of our history. I've always agreed that like the SJW shit on campuses is a problem. I think in college is probably one of the best areas in your life to be challenged, and that the idea of like having like trigger warnings on world history courses is absolutely fucking absurd to me. But the problem that I have is that it's so hard to have this conversation because I can't tell who genuinely wants to have a conversation about the dangers of censorship in society. We started this conversation off by saying it seems like people like Vosh or even Pac-Man have no principles, but they're just playing their ideological party lines. They're playing on whatever partisan lines they have. But then when people want to talk about censorship, I was in Milwaukee and I did like a little debate panel, and I listened to 4 or 5 people on there talking about censorship, and nobody brought up the president of the United States trying to make it so that nobody would hire Kaepernick because of kneeling during the national anthem, or the president of the United States talking about locking people up for burning a flag, or the president of the United States talking about wanting to open libel laws for journalists. And these are all like really important aspects of censorship as well. Now, maybe they don't affect us as much in the Twitter internet world, but I would feel like anybody wanting to have a responsible conversation about like the dangers of censorship would probably bring these things up too. And when people don't, it makes me kind of like look sideways at them. Like, do you actually give a fuck about censorship? Like, were you championing James Gunn being canceled by that mock, whatever the fucking guy was on Twitter, you know, when it happened to you, or when it happened to him? And on a personal level, I saw a lot of right-wingers, you know, absolutely love the fuck when my Twitter got banned a long time ago. Now they're very sympathetic because I got canceled by the left, but when they were trying to cancel me on Twitter, all the right-wingers were super happy. Ian Chong, Nick Fuentes, James Alsup, all of these people came out and were like, oh, get fucked, blah, 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 blah. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. It feels like everybody just likes to play their partisan bullshit.
I think you're right, and I've noticed that too. A lot of right-wing people just celebrate when someone's banned, even unjustifiably, and I definitely condemn that. And the same thing with Trump. I do think though that the kind of ball is in the court of big tech, though, for the most part, because, you know, Facebook, Twitter, Google, they have way more sway with free speech and what we can say than what Trump saying people should be locked up for burning the flag is almost more of a just scathing remark than it actually is anything he can do about it. You know, he has to go through so much. Well, actually, I don't know the exact process, but you know,
they're challenging it in the Supreme Court for the Facebook stuff right now. I don't disagree that, like, I think that we need to be really careful when we talk about political stuff to understand that sometimes our lives can be very localized, and we kind of see things in ways that affect us, but not in ways that they affect like the world. Like, in my opinion, in my life, people emailing companies to get like influencers canceled, that's probably one of the biggest deals in my personal life. But in the overall life and health in America, the president of the United States talking about being able to open libel laws to sue journalists, like, that is so many millions of times worse than people getting banned on Twitter or Facebook. But I at the end of the day, like, it feels like people are only kind of see the issues that more personally impact them, which is a little bit frightening.
Are you implying that? Well, okay. I mean, I agree that if libel laws are used, you know, irresponsibly, that I agree that that's a big problem. But are you implying that the internet and kind of Twitter and stuff is a very local problem?
I think that I think that problems exist in ways that impact people differently. Like, everybody says that, like, this is the worst thing in the world, or this is the end of whatever media, blah, 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 blah. But usually when people are talking about that, they're just talking about a problem that impacts them individually, and they can't see the bigger picture. So, for instance, when lefties get online and say, like, I can't believe we still have police in this country, we need to get rid of all police, everybody wants to do it. No, that's actually a really ultra-fringe position. Like, even the majority of the black community is in favor of police. The idea that every single person wants police gone, or everybody wants private insurance canceled, or everybody wants, immigration stopped or trade ban from China. Like these are like, yeah, I think that people get really lost in their own little worlds and they kind of can't contextualize things for greater pictures. Yeah.
See, this is why I wanted to bring up people like Brett Weinstein and stuff, is because unlike, and I've listened to people both left, right, and everything else, and I think a lot of the IDW, intellectual dark web, and people surrounding that, maybe not every one of them, maybe Ben Shapiro or something, or people more on the fringes or whatever, more ideologically driven, I wouldn't include, but a lot of them do seem to be arguing by principles. People like Douglas Murray, I don't know if you've heard of him. He's a great public intellectual. He's actually a British author. Eric Weinstein, Brett Weinstein, even to some extent, I think Jordan Peterson, although I'm sure you don't like him for a number of reasons. But I guess none of these people are perfect. Maybe Brett Weinstein is out of his depth to be talking about his theories regarding COVID or whatever. But I think most of these people, when you actually sit down and listen to them, they're facing the same problem that you are, in the sense that they're usually very socially liberal, left-leaning, but they're absolutely arguing from principles. They're absolutely not trying to be driven by some sort of ideology and captured by that. And I don't see that anywhere else really on the internet. So I feel like I'm not necessarily recommending you ally with them or something, but I feel like being a little bit open to those kinds of people is, you're going to find more honest, good faith actors in that crowd than, in the Twitch politosphere.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I guess as I make my little venture over here to the center, in terms of who I'm talking to, I hope, because I'm getting so fucking tired of talking to commies. I hope that ends up being true, but like everything I've seen from like the Dave Rubin, especially the Tim Pools, like all of these people just seem like they want to sell their own brand of extremism, but they try to do it seated in the center. It's almost like people think that being in the center is in and of itself virtuous, rather than being in the center as a consequence of your politics. So they make it a goal to be as central as possible. And I don't think there's any virtue there. I don't think it makes you smart or more informed or whatever. And yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen any like center leading figures that I'm like super impressed by. Like, wow, this guy has a lot of intellectual honesty. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, I could see that with Dave Rubin and Tim. I think Tim Pool brands himself. I think Tim Pool just puts out so much content. Like he's very driven by probably, I don't know, by probably the business aspect of it as well, because I just see like his thumbnails are all like, Democrats will never recover from this, and it's like a picture of Trump with the middle finger or something.
Yeah, always. Yeah.
And I think that stuff, I agree, it's tasteless, it's building up your brand, and it's not actually, I think there's something dishonest about it for sure. But I don't know, there's a lot of failure of institutions going on too, and I think this is, to some extent, this is where the left or the rioters, or well, not the rioters, but the protesters have some point, which is that, our politicians have, I don't trust Biden to have the solutions, and I guess you do. Like, that's business as usual.
Well, sure, but like, what do you mean by that?
Well, what I mean by that is I think we're facing a precipice of this country, and I don't think, frankly, I don't think it matters who wins. Like if Biden wins or Trump wins, I don't think it matters to the people who are trying to burn down the country. I don't think it matters to the commies, to the or to the extremes on the right, for that matter.
If you ask like every single person, this is just a perspective thing. Wait, how old are you again? You're like 30,
I'm 25.
Right? 25. Okay.
I thought I was 30.
I don't know. Well, because I remember you being on the internet like fucking 10 years ago. Not 10 years ago, probably like for 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess one thing that I try to do to have some perspective is it feels like legitimately every single person has always thought at every single point in time that this is always the worst point in history, and that it can't get any worse. So I mean, like, it seems like that type of extremist divide has been growing and growing and growing and growing. I don't know if this is the breaking point. Like some people would have said that like the Department of Homeland Security and like the TSA and the Patriot Act, that was the end of like American freedom, blah 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 blah. And it seems like we survived that to some extent. So yeah, I mean,
it's kind of been a decline ever since then, though, in terms of our rights.
Well, I mean, people say it's been a decline since Reagan. People say it's been a decline since FDR. That the New Deal was the start of the destruction of America because of government, blah blah blah. So I mean, it's hard to say, like what is the ending point. I guess I try not to have like such a cynical outlook on things, mainly because it just doesn't do anything. Like I can't do anything with that type of cynical outlook. So I usually what I try to look at is like, okay, well, what are the problems that exist and what are ways that we can move in positive directions? So when you tell me, like I don't think Biden can solve everything, yeah, 100%. I don't know if Biden will solve any major problem being president. However, I am incredibly confident that the direction that Biden sets us down is incredibly more positive than the direction that Trump sets us down. That's like the one thing.
Why is that?
Because I think he has a better fundamental understanding of reality. So when we talk about things, for instance, like climate change, I don't think that Biden believes it to be a Chinese hoax. When we talk about things like a coronavirus, I don't think Biden would spend the first 4 months of his presidency saying that, it's going to, or the first 4 months of the actual outbreak saying that it doesn't exist and that it's going away instantly. So I think that Biden would have a better handle on things like that. And then the policy directions that he takes us in economically, I think are better for more people around the country rather than just the endless tax cuts and deficit spending that Republicans have fallen in love with despite being against deficit spending.
Do you think that Biden would keep us out of foreign wars, though?
I would hope so, yeah.
Okay.
Probably more so than Trump, I think, maybe. I don't know. It's hard to say. I think that Trump gives us some feel-good short-term stuff, but I think that like some long-term really bad things could happen under Trump. Like it's very easy to push for peace when you have no understanding of like the theater you're working in. So for instance, like, I want to be friends with Russia and Iran and North Korea. And then when you're friends with them and you try to de-escalate conflict, but you don't actually like secure any concessions from them, you don't actually get anything done, then really all you're doing is you're ceding like larger parts of the world to the influence of these other countries because you're too stupid to see what's going on. So that could boil over into a huge conflict in the future. Like as an example, the foreign policy is really boring. I don't want to like spend too much time on this, but for example, we're kind of losing, or maybe we've already lost influence in Iraq to Iran and Syria. Say you get those three countries all together united, Iraq, Iran, Syria, and say they begin to launch attacks against Saudi Arabia, our ally. We've already defended, chainsawing up a journalist and everything. Well, what is Trump going to do there? We pulled out of Iraq. We stopped the wars. We stopped the foreign meddling, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. You stopped all of that. Well, now Iraq, that used to be an American centerpiece in the Middle East, has now fallen into the influence of Iran on the east and Syria on the west, and Russia to the north. And now they begin to attack a kind of ally that you have, Saudi Arabia. Well, what do you do there? What about when Hezbollah is strengthened as a result of these three countries coming together and being stronger? And now you've got more attacks in Israel or more attacks down on the Gulf. Like, I don't think Trump has answers to these big problems. I think that Trump looks good by saying, or what about when Kabul falls to the Taliban? Like, I think that Trump looks good when he's like, I want to pull out the troops and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay, cool. Oh my God, there's less conflict. Okay, cool. But like 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, like where does that leave the state of affairs in the Middle East? In a very precarious position where, I'm sorry, that's like my overall problem. Like, I understand that Trump does some things that in the short term looks like really good, but I don't know.
Okay.
Sorry, that was a foreign policy.
No. Well, okay, but it is somewhat relevant because I think really big picture speaking, and this relates to the whole COVID situation. I think China and the East, this is like their time to shine. Like I feel like America has lost a lot of its luster, and I feel like we're playing catch up economically, and just lifestyle wise, whatever you want to call it. Like, okay, like compare New York or something to Beijing or Tokyo or Seoul even. I mean, it's just so outdated. It's so old money, old style of living, and I think that's why you're seeing these cities just like be I don't know. They're just relics of the past.
Yeah, I think I hate to say this. Especially hate to say it in the morning because there's a lot of European fuckers here. But I think any venture to a European city would blow a lot of American minds. It did for me. Like Jesus Christ, like they've got cooler, newer shit. They've got cooler, older shit. Like like everything is like
Yeah.
yeah. And some of their shit is pretty disappointing to me. That like fuck. Like I come back to America and even our coolest cities seem like kind of shitty in comparison to a lot of like the decently cool cities in Europe. It seems pretty shitty to me. But I mean like, or go ahead.
Well, I was going to say on the flip side of that, though, and this is so on the flip side of that, it also is kind of America seems like the last bastion of freedom, though, at least in the way, in certain ways. And it seems like freedom is a necessary, freedom kind of clashes with that ultra modern future.
I totally disagree, and I wish Americans would stop thinking this way. Like, we have a very one-dimensional view of freedom in the United States, where to us, like, freedom is the ability to call people fags on the internet, or freedom is like that's what we consider freedom. But like, I think that there's a lot to be said for the fact that every single European listening to this probably gets like 3 to 5 weeks of paid vacation guaranteed at the shittiest minimum wage job in the world. Or the fact that I can say that only 11% of women in the United States have access to maternal leave. That if you have a baby in the United States, in the US, you're guaranteed 0 days of paid vacation. This is unheard of across the majority of Northern and Western Europe. I think that these types of freedoms, the freedom to have a family in peace without worry of like economic suicide, or the freedom to be able to go to school without worrying that you can't pay for your single parent household. Like, I think that these are freedoms that are worth fighting for as well. I don't know why the only freedom we ever like obsess over is like the words we can say on the internet or something. I think that those are cool freedoms too. Like, but like, damn, I wish that we would also focus on some of the economic parts as well.
Well, really, okay, so really the divide you're pointing out is the individualist versus collectivist divide. And you're right that America's a very individual liberty focused society. But
to the detriment sometimes of our individual liberty, though. Like,
well, how do you mean?
Like if I value the individual liberties of millionaires and billionaires across America to not pay taxes, I'm destroying the individual liberty of every single person that can't afford a house or can't afford food or can't afford to go to school. Like it's like a contradiction almost.
Yeah, that's where that's what I mean. So, okay, so that's what I mean by it seems like we're reaching a precipice, because at certain, 50 years ago, I think that contradiction, as you pointed out, was way more sustainable. The wealth income inequality was way less severe. We weren't in quote unquote late stage capitalism, as a lot of people like to point out. But we're getting to a point now, whether it's due to, whatever, just a ton of economic factors and population increase and whatever else, that it's just becoming such a big divide. And I think the answer to that is the more collectivist society, something like China. But of course, or whatever, similar countries to that. But the drawback, of course, is you lose a lot of individual liberty. I mean, you can't criticize the government in China. You can't even criticize China in Australia, by the way.
Why does why does our goal have to be China to improve ourselves? Why can't our goal be like Scandinavia?
I mean, well, Scandinavia is so it's so small in terms of population. I don't know if that's possible here.
Do you think that there are things that they do in that country that's not scalable? Are you trying to avoid using the word homogenous, or?
I don't. Oh no, I don't care about that.
Okay. What does Scandinavia do? Like, what does Sweden or Norway do that isn't scalable to the United States? Like, why? Or what about huge countries? Like, I'd say Germany is pretty large. I'd say France is pretty large. I'd say the UK is pretty large. Like, these people, for instance, at least have healthcare and some form of paid vacation. Like, we can't do that as Americans. Why not?
Well, you can. I guess you would just have to increase taxes by a lot. I don't know. I'm not the greatest with that. I think one problem with healthcare is, from an American individualist liberty perspective, is that, well, is it the government's job to take care of my health? I mean, I think ideally not, and ideally people wouldn't need that as well, because it's like, Well, now the government is just your dad. Now the government is just your family. Now the government takes care of every part of your life, and you rely on them for every part of your life. And the whole idea of America is that we don't rely on government. Government serves us or protects our rights, but doesn't grant our rights.
So, in my opinion, rights are boring to me. I don't really care to talk about or consider rights that exist on paper, but in practicality can't be secured. If in the United States, every single person, has the right to pursue life, liberty, and happiness or whatever, but the reality is at the end of the day, some people are going to be locked into the bottom quintile of wealth for 80% of their lives, or that people born in certain households are just going to forever be at a disadvantage, save for the one or two exceptions that make it out. I don't really consider those rights to be relevant at that point. Like, okay, cool, you've got the right to do something. You've got the right to sit and squander into nothingness as well. Like, you've got the right to be fucked your whole life. You've got the right to be born with type 1 diabetes and never, do anything in life because insurance is too expensive. I don't know. I think that there's a lot to be said for securing certain economic freedoms to give us other liberties as well. And it's not like you can't criticize the government in Sweden. It's not like you can't, have freedom of speech in Sweden. Maybe some of their restrictions are a little dumb. I would say so. But I don't know. These aren't oppressive regimes.
So one thing that I don't get here brought up a lot, and people have the tendency to view this as a very right-wing talking point, which I don't think it has to be. But I think the role traditionally of family and community in a I don't know if the word is de facto or whatever, but in a non-government setting has traditionally kind of helped the people in the gaps, has helped people who otherwise on their own, you're right, would be stuck in a perpetual loop of just being at the bottom.
Yeah, for sure.
And in the past 50, 60, whatever years, we've seen the family unit just completely dissolve or slowly dissolve in America. I mean, the divorce rate is what, 50%?
Yeah, this is a big talking point for conservatives, but it's super ahistorical. It's really funny that you said in the past 50, 60 years we've seen it dissolve. The nuclear family has only been around for 80 years. It's a super abnormal way of arranging family structure. Usually what was before World War II, what we actually had arranged was more like a village type structure where you'd have a huge confluence of friends and family that would help raise children. You'd have friends and family that would live on the block. You'd have a lot more housing with groups of people together. It wasn't just man, wife, son, daughter. That's actually a relatively new concept in human history. It's strange that I'm not accusing you of doing it, but I see Republicans will center around this as the traditional family. I was this isn't traditional at all. This is actually a pretty new concept in human history. I do agree that friends and family ought to play an important part in raising people or taking care of each other. This is why I try to be more generous towards the conservative point of view when they say they don't want social health care. I don't think it's because they want everybody to die. I think it's because conservatives tend to have a more community-minded view that we ought to take care of each other and we don't want the government to do it. So I understand that desire, but coming at it from the nuclear family point of view is very strange. And I don't even think there are large groups of people the nuclear family is a very city suburban thing, because even if you get out into white trash redneck America, which is, I'm from Nebraska, I'm from Omaha, so I know a lot of people like this, they do the village style raising as well. When you go to these communities, a lot of family live together, everybody knows everybody's cousins, aunts, uncles, these are the people that you're playing with and shit all the time. Even white people out in rural America understand that village concept. It's not about nuclear family. If you go out and talk to a lot of people that live on farms and shit, it's not man, wife, son, daughter. It's whole groups of people that live and work together. Yeah.
No, that's a good point. And I think that actually relates to, okay, so yeah, you're right. Small towns, they're very community oriented. Everyone knows each other. Everyone is more likely to take care of each other. And not by coincidence, everyone's also generally way more conservative too. I mean, those are the conservative parts of the country. And I think it's because they don't need the government as much. They don't want to rely on the government as much. But when you're in a city, there's so many people, there's so much going on. It's so easy to get lost. Of course, there's going to be more socialism. Of course, there's going to be more reliance on the government because people need that to survive. And that makes sense. But I guess what I'm saying is it's not necessarily better. And that's the inevitability part of it, is that everyone's driven towards cities. I mean, you moved are you in LA now? Where did you move?
I live in LA, yeah.
Okay. I'm sure you've seen the complete just change in culture from Omaha to Los Angeles, the way people act,
Mm-hmm.
the way they interface with just reality, with politics.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are so disconnected because they have no idea what it's like to live, in a community with the land, with a family. And that seems to be going away too. And I think that's why Trump won, is because those people came out in droves, because they're like, we don't, we don't want to, we don't want the cities dictating how the future of America, right? Because all the
Sure.
coastal cities are going to be voting for, they're always voting blue. They're always
Yeah.
voting
So
Democrat.
this is like, and here, this is the radical centrism that I have, right? What I really wish was possible was I wish that we could understand that there are pros and cons to different ways of organizing society, and then try to take all of the pros that we can and get rid of all of the cons that we can without totally dumping out certain concepts. So, from my personal experience, I had an argument with Arian Foster recently about this, and a lot of people seem to disagree with me on this. Personally, I think that conservative, like rural areas, I think are way more community oriented than most like cities. I feel like the people don't have as much a sense of community in a city as they do in like rurally, like smaller city town areas. That's just my personal anecdotal observation. I could be wrong. Maybe it doesn't track with reality perfectly. I know that there are some exceptions to that. Like there might be certain neighborhoods, like in New York or in some big cities, like really small neighborhoods that people feel that way. But I think in general, I feel like people are really community oriented in like kind of like conservative parts. I think that's an incredibly positive thing. I think that's really cool. And I think it'd be cool to bite that idea, to take that idea and use it in other places. However, your big economic drivers, America lives and dies by this economic success of its cities. The cities are what subsidize the existence of the poor rural people. The cities are your huge economic drivers of the United States. The cities are the things that put America on the world map. California alone, I think it's like the 5th biggest economy in the world if it stood on its own as a country. So like there is value there in having cities as well. It's an incredibly economically powerful way to organize ourselves. It's a huge driver of technology and innovation. It puts us on the world stage economically. I think it would be really cool if we could recognize that there are values that are really cool in cities and values that are really cool in like urban, or I'm sorry, rural areas, and try to like marry those two things in other ways rather than just saying, fuck rednecks, we need to all go to the cities, or, you know, fuck the cities, we need to all live in the fucking farm. Like, I wish that there was a way to bring the positives of both.
I completely agree with you, but I think that is the most ideal way forward. But it seems like in order to do that, to really parse that out, we need some sort of value system, and that I guess religion was trying to do that. I think it was, and religion has a lot of flaws and a lot of corruptibility, of course, because it's run by people. But do you agree that we need some sort of value system in order to even get there?
We need some value system. I don't know how valuable religion necessarily is, but I do recognize that religion gave us a lot of really valuable things. I'll couch this in the word ritual. I think that religion provided a lot of like ritualistic structure to our lives. It demarcated certain parts of your life. You know, oh, you're a kid, you're an adult. You know, you'd have this and this and this. I think that we had a lot of like value teaching through religious systems. I think it's really sad that in our fervent attempt to dismantle religion in the United States, we didn't give us anything to replace it by. I don't think that like on its face, if you remove the theology part, religion is actually kind of a cool idea. Every Sunday, you get to go and hang out with your community. You get to listen to a few like social lessons from a guy that hopefully knows more than you about it. You get to meet all the other people in your community. Sometimes you get to go out and like do community service and stuff. It's an easy way to make friends. It's an easy way to see everybody, for your family to come together. Like that idea is pretty cool. You get holidays with it. You get rituals with it for like rites of passage. Like I think all of that is really positive. It seems like after we threw out religion, we never replaced that. I think it could totally have like a secular replacement for some of these things. Nobody's ever thought of doing it, or people have thought of, but it hasn't caught on, I guess.
I would argue that it has caught on, and I think it's taken the form of anti-racism most recently. Are you aware of? Do you think that that's the case? Because I've seen people with the same amount of zealotry approach what they call anti-racism. You know, this whole idea, it's not enough to just not be racist. We have to be fervently anti-racist. And you know, maybe that sounds good or benign on the surface, but what it usually really means is calling out anyone and everyone who says anything, even just slightly like triggering or whatever, and forming these mobs that hunt people down who are not falling in line with your groupthink. it's a secular kind of religion in place of an actual religion. And
I think so I'll haphazardly agree with you. I think that when people lack meaning in their lives, they'll look for things to replace it. I think for some people that ends up being the crazy fucking SJW shit. I think for some people it ends up being like the insanely stupid conservative points. Yeah, I mean, I think that humans in general look for purpose in their lives, and people find it in dumb places sometimes. It definitely happens with the SJW shit sometimes, for sure. But it happens with conservative shit as well.
What do you? Okay, so you pointed out the flaws of religion and kind of the people need meaning in their lives. I totally agree with that. I've been thinking the kind of way I view it is that this is something Peterson kind of introduced to me, that the idea of God itself is more important than the actual belief system per se. In other words, if you believe that there's a God who's looking out for you, who has this moral system, that alone, that belief alone, will guide your life to a better place than if you just are a complete atheist and you think nothing matters and everything's random.
It's possible. So I would like to think that we could get there without God. Like I feel like you could theoretically come up with value. Not theoretically. I'm sorry. There are value systems that exist independent of God. It's just harder because you have to like do more work getting there, right? With religious systems, you inherit all of your values without a second thought. Nobody really thinks about like, are the 10 Commandments actually like right or wrong? Like nobody really thinks about that. Whereas like if you're an atheist, you have to do a little bit more work to actually like consider like, is something right or wrong? Because you're not just getting the answer from like a book, like a theological book or whatever.
And most people, you're on your own when you don't have a religious system just telling you everything. But there's so many traps to fall into that, like, okay, some people, they worship materialism. They think money and things are the ultimate goal in life. And some people, they worship fake virtue, again, like anti-racism or leftism or some sort of ideology, maybe conservatism or whatever. It's tough because I don't see organized religion really making a comeback, at least definitely not in the same way.
Probably not.
I feel like our solution honestly might lie in psychedelics. What do you think about that?
Maybe. Honest to God, I think the world would be a way different place if everybody had at least like fucking one LSD or mushroom trip, or even one like fucking. If you lock a conservative and a Democrat together in a room and make them both take MDMA, I think that we'd see interesting shit. But I mean, like realistically, I don't know. Like people are still pretty anti-drug in general. I don't think that's gonna happen anytime soon. So.
Is it? I mean, okay. So this is why I really like Joe Rogan, for example, and other people, because they kind of have mainstreamed the idea of psychedelics. And I think a big problem when we talked about political labels being a problem, I think the label of drugs is also a problem, because I would never put, psilocybin mushrooms in the same category as cocaine or heroin or something. They're completely different substances that have very different effects on the body. And
it's also even the word drugs is kind of stupid, right? Like caffeine is a drug, but nobody thinks twice about it. Alcohol is a drug, but nobody thinks twice about it. Like, yeah.
When Joe invited Joe Biden and Donald Trump onto his podcast for like a 4-hour discussion, it sounds like a joke, but those are the kind of ideas that we need. Like that's exciting. That's awesome. Yes. Fuck this corporate debate stage sponsored by MSNBC or CNN with this biased moderator, 5 seconds of talking per person. That's such that itself is an outdated, extremely, it's not even representative of anything actually meaningful, but having an actual conversation, which people need more than ever. I think this is why podcasts, this is probably why you are pretty popular to some extent. People are craving a real meaningful long form discussion. You don't get anything meaningful out of a tweet, out of a soundbite on the news. I think this is these kinds. Sorry, go on.
I hear what you're saying. Unfortunately, I totally disagree. I think that people absolutely crave the dog shit that we have today, and I think that's why it's so popular. One thing that I'll say about media, and I'm not giving my opinion, this is a fact, media is a two-way street. Media doesn't just tell us what they want us to think. Media is a reflection of what we do think. And most people will never acknowledge that because they're too uncomfortable to accept the responsibility that the current media environment that exists in the United States does so at the demand of the American people. These things didn't just pop up out of nowhere. There wasn't a creepy Jewish guy or some, insane, powerful rich dude that forced all of us to like the dog shit low tier media that exists today. It exists because it sells well. And it sells well because we do like that very easily accessible, low thought, super hyper sensationalist, all of this stuff is people want it, and that's why it's popular. I don't think it's fair, or I don't know, I get a little frustrated sometimes because people will look at it and be like, oh my god, how are we even here right now, how did we get to this point? It's well, because you fucking tune in and watch it, and we can see this play out. A lot of people might be mad as fuck, but you can see this play out in 17 different arenas. How many people complain about oh my god, get rid of these fucking remakes. We see the same goddamn video games all the time. Oh my god, sorry, Elder Scrolls 6. Oh my god, sorry, Assassin's Creed 12. Oh my god, sorry. And they buy the same shit. Or can we get some goddamn original movies, please? Oh my god, sorry, the new Batman. Oh my god, the new Spider-Man reboot 74. Blah. Oh my god, another remake of James Bond, blah, blah, blah. Hey, did you ever watch, this movie or that movie or that movie? What? I never heard of that shit before. I don't even know what the fuck that is. What? That movie? Oh, well, this, won Oscars. Or this movie had, even mainstream actors. Oh, never heard of it. Don't care, right? To some extent, a lot of the environment that we exist in terms of media is just a reflection of the pandering that companies do to the base desires of what people want to see. Yeah, I don't know. I think that we can be critical of corporate media, but you have to be equally critical of the people that empower corporate media to do what they do, which are the people that consume corporate media. I think a lot of people don't want to make that recognition sometimes.
Yeah, you're right, and it's two sides of the same coin. But I think this kind of goes back to that seeking the easiest route is kind of built into the human condition.
Yes.
You see this everywhere.
Yep.
Even with I think sugar, I think diets are a great example. Sugar is maybe that bite-sized, that hit of dopamine you get from Twitter or from whatever, Instagram or something, but it's not good for you. It's better for you to have a fruit or with the fibers and all the whole context of it, just like the context of a conversation or of a clip. And so that's kind of the human condition being exploited by technology and the economy, which are right now governing our lives more than anything else, I think. This is where it feels like some sort of inevitability, because it's algorithms basically run our lives or run our choices, or they're going to pretty soon. And how do we get out of that? We have to have, I think the only way out of breaking that is to really strongly believe in something outside of the human condition. And that's where the idea of God comes in.
But this is why it's the human condition, right? You can't really escape it. If we could, it wouldn't be the human condition. And this is why, to come full circle, the ultimately ironic thing is initially you brought up how much you hate the idea of a babysitter. But the reality is that we need a babysitter. And when babysitters exist, human prosperity can flourish. So the greatest example of this is the age-old argument. It's happened a million times. It's going to happen a million times in the future. A subreddit grows and grows, and eventually it gets tired because the high-quality content that it used to produce has somehow degraded into meme shit. And then two types of people will come up. Somebody will say, we need aggressive moderation to get rid of the meme shit that exists in the sub, because it's bullshit and it's ruining the sub. And then another type of person will come up and say, excuse me, we have an upvote and downvote system. Let the people decide. These communities can always go one of two ways. They let the community decide, in which case the rest of the sub will forever be meme shit, because low tier, low effort, quickly digestible content will always rise to the top. Or the subreddits will aggressively moderate, and then you get ultra high quality subs, like the Ask Science or the Ask Historian subreddits, where every single post you can know for a fact is going to have super high quality shit written by ultra highly educated people that's going to be worthwhile to read. So it seems like at the end of the day, some level of babysitting, some level of pushing us into a certain area does produce higher quality content or better flourishing of human stuff or whatever than just leaving us to our own devices.
Don't you think though that when it's the government who's solely responsible for pushing people in that direction, that creates a whole new set of problems, because now the government is very corruptible, very prone to corruption because they have all the power.
Yeah, 100%. However, any argument or any fear that you can have about the government being prone to corruption applies just as much to any private company.
Oh, absolutely.
But the difference is that at least at the end of the day, we can try to hold the government accountable with our vote. You have zero accountability to private companies. You can use the old conservative argument, the old neo-Republican, what were they called under Bush? Neocon, yeah. You can use the old one of like, let the market decide, but newer Republicans are smarter than that and have realized, okay, hold on, fuck. Sometimes the market sucks. In the case of like Facebook, sometimes people actually are too big to fail, and you will never get competition here. So yeah, I mean, it seems like I don't mind the government stepping in. And this kind of goes back to everything we talk about, like healthcare and babysitting, blah, blah, blah. I think that the government ought to step in when there are problems that only the government can solve. And the nice thing about the government is at the end of the day, at least we can all have a vote on what they do, rather than a private company that just has a few owners or shareholders voting on it.
That sounds nice, and I think that has worked for most of American history. But the people who want to burn down the country, they don't think that their solutions are in the ballot box. And I don't see that they're... Like, I think what you're saying, it kind of flies in the face a little bit of what's going on right now, where people see Trump, they see Biden, and they don't see solutions at all. And they see the better solution is communism, or the better solution is whatever, I don't know, fascism for some extreme right-wingers.
I think that, like, I don't think that's the majority of Americans. I think that's just the extreme voices that we tend to give the loudest microphones to. No, not microphones, megaphones to. Well, I guess it is kind of like microphones today because we're all on podcasts. But yeah, I think we tend to amplify extremist voices, but I think a lot of people are way closer to the middle in the United States than most people think. This is why I push back on this cancerous idea that every single person that has a Blue Lives Matter hashtag is a fucking fascist. Like, no, dog. Like, believe it or not, some people just fucking like cops, okay? There's a lot of there's a lot of people that just live in fucking rural communities where like everybody knows the local sheriffs and shit, and these people like go to people's family dinners and stuff. Like, not everybody that has Blue Lives Matter is a fucking, you know, insane fascist or whatever. And then much the same as well, not every Democrat wants to abolish the police. Like, a lot of people on the left are like incensed. They're like, why isn't AOC and why aren't Bernie talking about how we need to eradicate and destroy the police force? You know, why is Biden out here saying he doesn't want to defund the police? Well, because most, even Democrats, even black people don't want to get rid of the police. That's a fringe position. It's just these are the types of voices we amplify on the internet, because extremism is way more entertaining to consume than somebody going on and being like, hey guys, let's talk about like the reasonable middle ground between these 2 points or whatever.
Have you heard of the 3% revolution?
I haven't. If I had to guess what it means, is it the idea that it only takes 3% of a given population to push the other 45% into like a revolutionary mindset?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
I mean, so in other words, I hear that argument a lot of like, well, this is just extremists on Twitter. This is just people online. This is just some rioters. Okay, but at a certain point, you don't need a huge majority to really cause a lot of chaos and to change things up. That's kind of what I mean by us quickly approaching that point. Like after this election, I think it's a very, what's going to pull us back from the brink? It's either authoritarianism under Trump or Biden, or I guess massive amounts of socialism and welfare, perhaps. But other than that, like, you know, things are just going to get worse and worse in terms of riots and civil unrest. And I don't see like.
I think we need to be careful when we look at the current state of the United States. Like, I love to doomsday as well, but I mean, like, I think that the riots that are happening right now are a pretty special intersection of some pretty unbelievable things. So this might be an unpopular take with people on the left and the right, but, or maybe this is a super cold take. I hope this is a really cold take. I don't think that the riots would be anywhere near as bad if we didn't have a ton of people that had literally been sitting at home for fucking months, unemployed and with nothing to do. Like, I think that the coronavirus scare definitely, like, got people out of their houses more to go out and like, protest and do crazy shit. I don't know if this would have played out exactly the same way. I think that we're just kind of, like, at a unique intersection of a lot of, like, unprecedented events happening right now. But, like, I think, and this is actually something I said that I worry that would let Trump win the election easily. I think that once the I think that once the vaccine rolls out and we start to get back to work, I think people are going to feel like 180%. I think that people are going to feel like, oh my God, like the world is better than it ever has been, just because life will get back to normal and people will like not be so focused on how horrible the coronavirus and lockdown and shit is. That's like my guess right now, but
I hope that's a cold take too, because it makes no sense to me that, okay, what now, after years and years of seeing, examples of police brutality or just, unarmed black men being shot, that now this year is when things hit the fan with that. And also you see these protests going on globally too, whether it's in solidarity of Black Lives Matter or, like, I guess people call them anti-mask protests, although I'm not sure if they're all explicitly anti-mask or whatever it is. But the point is that there's a lot of civil unrest, and I think it's way more tied to COVID, to unemployment. That's a big one. I mean, during the Industrial Revolution about 100 years ago, there was riots. There was all kinds of civil unrest, and that's why we have Labor Day, because of remembering that time period. And it seems like right now we're going through, I don't know if it's an industrial revolution or an information revolution, some sort of massive change, but similarly to then, or maybe this is different. I don't think a lot of these jobs are coming back, though. At least definitely not the same jobs. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. It's delusional fantasy. But I will say it's delusional fantasy. So, for instance, like when Trump says he's bringing back manufacturing, like that's not true. Those types of jobs are gone forever. The economy of the world is changing. However, I will say, like, even back when Marx was alive, people kept saying, like, okay, I think Marx talked about the loomers. What are like the big automated, not the automated sewing machines, but like the pedal operated ones or the gas operated one. Like, people were saying all the time that, like, machines are going to come in and we're going to get rid of all the workers and capital is too strong and blah, blah, blah. And there's going to be no jobs left. People have been saying that for hundreds and hundreds of years. I don't think that all the jobs are going to disappear. We're just moving into needing a more and more and more educated workforce. More jobs are becoming available. They're just like higher educated jobs. But the old jobs, the old like $60 an hour with benefits jobs of the union workers at the steel plants or whatever, those types of low education jobs, those aren't going to exist anymore. Probably not, in no form.
And the higher the jobs that require more education, there's a big swath of the population that's just not going to be able to adapt to that, right? Like truck drivers. I mean, this is like famously Andrew Yang was saying, during the election, that like the most popular job amongst white males is truck driving, and if that gets replaced, these 40-year-old middle-aged truck drivers who've been doing this for 20 years, they're not just going to learn to code or something like that. They can't. And I think that same kind of principle applies to a lot of other jobs where, sure, I mean, maybe the future generations will adapt and they'll be more adaptable to that. But the huge swath of the current population is just going to be completely kind of put to the side by the economy.
Yeah, so we just have to pay them, and then they just stop working basically, or find something else for them to do or whatever, I guess. But like, yeah, I mean, something we learned. My understanding is something we learned under NAFTA is that retraining for jobs, and as far as I know, all the research has affirmed this. I haven't seen anything in the country. Retraining for jobs doesn't work. It's just like, I think by the time they looked at some of because I think they were having problems with NAFTA. I think under Clinton they'd made like some little administration to help people that were disaffected by NAFTA. And what they found out by the end of that was it would have been better to just ship those people cash directly instead of paying for retraining, because retraining just doesn't work for people that are like 30, 40, 50 years old and have already been working a job for 10 or 20 or 30 years. So I mean, like, but if that's the case, right? Here's another great job of government. Well, let's go ahead and tie a cost to what it would cost, or let's put a cost on some of the ways that big companies can make more money in a certain environment. This is really vague, I'm sorry. More particularly, okay? Let's say, for instance, we have a big factory, and let's say that in that factory, it's incredibly cost effective to just run it with robots, right? if it's so insanely cost effective to run it with robots, you save so much money doing it, well, then we can probably put a tax associated to running that type of capital, and then that money can be sent to people that are disaffected, that lose their jobs. Like, these are policies that are totally realistic, that we could totally do. We just need to have, like, the mind to do it. Instead of this weird view where, like, Trump is like, we're going to bring back manufacturing. No, you're not going to fucking bring back manufacturing. Or liberals that think you're going to, like, make it so robots are illegal. You're not going to stop, like, engineering like that. It's never going to happen. Like, I just think we need to have, like, better tax policy for a lot of these things. But first we have to recognize, like, what we need to do. But it seems like nobody...
Are you in favor of UBI then?
I'm on the fence about UBI. I'm a huge means-tested cuck. I really like means-tested things. But I mean, hey, if UBI works, then sure, that could be the path forward.
I don't expect someone like Trump or Biden to understand any of this, because they themselves are in their 70s. It's like, of course they're going to think the old ways of, okay, we're going to get these jobs back, we're going to do things and get. Yeah, you're right though. A lot of these jobs are not coming back, and it's just we're naturally going towards this new direction. And I think it doesn't serve us to have such old senile people in office who are themselves out of touch and outdated with the future that I think we need younger people in office too.
I don't necessarily disagree that it really sucks that all of our new leaders are fucking 90 years old. I think that's shitty. But do you think that there's an equal likelihood that both Trump and Biden will pay attention to the problems of workers? Do you think that like they're going to approach it the exact same? Or do you think that they might have like fundamentally different outlooks on?
They probably have fundamentally different outlooks.
Yeah, so I'd say that like even if Biden can't use his fucking cell phone without a staffer helping him, which is probably true. Even if I agree with things like that, I can still acknowledge that Biden is probably going to put the country in a better position to deal with these problems in the future than Trump would with his endless corporate tax cuts and cash transfers to wealthy people.
Okay, but in that same vein, couldn't you say that Trump, unlike I haven't seen that many other politicians, including Biden, condemn China or like try to decouple from China? That's something Trump has been saying for years that he never really gets credit for. And he was kind of right. Like if we weren't so reliant on China, we maybe would have avoided a lot of the problems we have now. Do you see that? What do you think about that?
The problem, and this is going to sound like a cuck answer, but the problem is that like, first of all, in terms of problems with China, there have been a lot of politicians that have spoken about stuff like the Uyghurs. Has Trump even talked about the Uyghurs?
I don't think so.
Okay, so yeah, so like I don't think that it's fair to say that Trump is the only one dealing with China. I don't think that's true. Firstly, secondly, China is complicated. And you can say that Trump has a credit for dealing with China, but even Trump doesn't truly understand stuff related to China. Like I've heard Trump say that like we can pay off the trade deficit with like our GDP. Like these are nonsensical statements. I don't know if I would ever trust Trump to be the one to balance out our problems with China when he doesn't even understand like the basic numbers or acronyms that have to do with the tracking of the economy. Again, like Trump does a thing.
He's not an economist.
Yeah, I know, but like Trump does this thing where like, oh, it looks like Trump is dealing with the China in a really positive way, and it's like, well, is he? Like, we slapped a bunch of tariffs on certain products. We're getting counter tariffs from all of our fucking trading partners. I think Canada was supposed to announce them either very recently or like tomorrow or something. Tariffs or taxes on the American people. He's bragging about the money and tariffs he's collecting, which are taxes, that disproportionately hurt the lowest Americans because at the end of the day, like, it's going to be the person consuming the product that pays the tax. So I mean, like, I don't know. Like, I do agree that there's probably something to be said for having a more individualist take on like your local production, but I don't think Trump is the person to understand that.
Yeah, I think people put too much pressure on Trump, both from the right and left, in terms of like the right thinking he has the solutions for everything, and then the left blaming him for literally every single thing.
Well, I mean, Trump kind of did it to himself. When you blame Obama for literally every single thing, and then you become president, and all those same things happen to you. I mean, you kind of set yourself up for it. Like, what did it's at this point I don't even read him anymore because it's such a low hanging fruit. But there's literally like a Trump tweet for everything. Didn't he tweet something recently that I saw going around? It was like 30,000 people have died with H1N1. The president should step down immediately. Like, Jesus fuck, dude. Like Trump has said so much stupid shit that if you were to point the eye at his own administration, it's like, damn, this ain't it, chief. Like, jeez.
I talked with you once a few years ago about AI, or I think you had some discussions about that. Are you any more or less concerned about the possibilities of AI just running rampant? I mean, I feel like we're already seeing that right now with algorithms and such. But have you looked into that at all? What do you think about that?
Less and less concerned. I still think that the threat of a general AI is so absurdly overblown. Like, I'm not going to hold you to anything because I don't know, but I'm willing to bet that if we would have gone back in time when we had our last conversation, it was probably over a year ago, right?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, you probably would have told me that by now we'd have self-driving cars.
I probably would have said like in 5 years.
Okay, maybe, but it seems like that I felt like I was hearing people say like within like 2 or 3 years, like we're gonna have like self-driving Uber cars and blah blah blah. I feel like I heard that claim a lot, and we still don't have them. And that's just that's not even a general AI problem, right? This is still like a pretty specific area that we still haven't solved for. Like, yeah, general AI and these types of AI destructive things that are going to destroy the economy always seem to be like 5 or 10 years out perpetually. I'm sure at some point it'll become a problem, but I think there are way more pressing issues that we need to focus on before worrying about, like, you know, Agent Smith taking over society and fucking everything up.
Do you have any ideas for, well, first, do you even think this is a major problem? The way I see it is that the technology makes our lives so much more convenient, but it also divides people both physically and also ideologically, perhaps too, because people are just living in their own bubbles of media consumption and watching things. I feel like, you know, we're seeing such an increase of mental illness, of depression, of suicide, which, by the way, I don't ever see talked about by these, you know, like I don't see that talked about on the news very much, but it's just statistically true.
Yeah, it's not sexy to talk about depression and shit. Nobody cares. Yeah.
And you know, it's like I think we all know people who've killed themselves recently. Famously, of course, some streamers have, and it's just it's like, how are we going to bring people together? I mean, right now with COVID, it's like people don't even want to be together because of you know, concerns about that. But how do you see a future with technology, but also these two things seem to be clashing, right? People,
yeah, convenience is, this ties into earlier stuff we talked about too when I talked about like the Reddit moderation. I think that I think that humans prefer convenience over all else. It makes sense, right? If we talk about evolutionary psychology, like, we probably are designed to conserve energy as much as possible. That's why we'll consume as much fucking food as put in front of us, even if it's insanely calorically dense, even if it makes us fat. That's why we tend to prefer to not move rather than to move, because conservation of energy is probably really fucking important when it comes to survival, because you're not guaranteed your next meal. So we would probably trace a lot of this back to the advent of farming, right? As soon as we had the ability to produce large quantities of food without having to hunt for it, and we started to specialize in a job. It's like, there's like a million things to talk about there. I don't know what the solution is. In my personal unfounded bullshit opinion, just from the little bit that I've read about little pieces of things, I think that there's probably some default optimal state of a human being, and that default state is probably somebody that exercises or moves their body at least 1 hour a day, gets at least 7.5 hours of sleep a night, has some form of social circle of friends and family that they interact with on a daily basis, and has a diet that isn't like overrepresented in fucking carbs. That's like my guess, is that's probably what like the delicate balance of chemicals in the human body was probably based around. And the farther and farther and farther that you move away from that in any of those dimensions, so when you start fucking up your sleep, when you lack the ability to socialize with coworkers, friends, or family, when your diet is composed of fried foods, processed foods, and sugars and carbs, and when you and when you're sitting at a desk all day, the more and more you move down those roads, the more likely you are to throw shit out of balance in your brain. That would be my guess.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So the concerns I have about AI kind of stem from that, and stem from the whole idea of people are driven by convenience, and then the economy and technology are exacerbating that and exploiting that. And so, like, I guess people call this Kaczynskiism or whatever. I think technology, of course, can be a double-edged sword, but also, I mean, I think humans are getting written out of the equation. Like, if the economy is doing so, like, okay, great example right now is the stock market is doing really well, but what are the companies that are leading the charge? Are the biggest companies ever to exist, amassing the most amount of wealth ever seen, and they're all big tech companies.
Yep.
They went up. Everything else pretty much went down after COVID. And but what good is it if the economy is doing well? Like, who is that serving? If it's serving the tiny minority of technocratic billionaires, but
that's just the thing, though. It's not, right? So remember what I talked about earlier when it comes to media, how it's a two-way reflection. You asked a question, but you actually answered it the same question. So what are the companies that are getting big? It's these tech companies, right? Well, why are they getting big? It's because these are the companies that we use and endorse the most, because they provide the easiest outlet for us to live the most convenient life. That's why we like things like Amazon, where we get free movies and shit on Amazon Prime, or we can order stuff and have it show up at our door in one day and we don't have to go to the supermarket. It's why we like Google, because we can watch YouTube videos and just binge on ads over and over and over again. Like, it's no coincidence that the big tech companies are the ones that are growing. Yeah, maybe some billionaires are getting rich at the top, but the reason why they're getting so rich is because of the utility that they provide to people that all support these companies. It's not like big tech companies are getting like massively profitable and rich by mistake. It's because these are the companies that we support. So much the same way that we kind of demonize or look to the Zuckerbergs or whatever and say like, these rich, huge tech companies are destroying society, they're getting huge, blah, 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 blah. It's the same way as when we look to media and say, wow, these news stations are so extremist, so horrible, or oh my God, it's another sequel of a video game or a movie. Like, these things are getting big because these are the things that we're choosing. I guess we're just like uncomfortable accepting the ramifications of those choices.
Right, but convenience and let's say, like, more to the point, pleasure or something, or short-term satisfaction, those things aren't necessarily good. They just
true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%, of course.
So that's why we need a value system to align things with human interests, not with economic interests that are detached from what is actually good in the long term.
True. But like, I can think of ways that you could do this religiously. I can think of ways you could do this with private companies. I can think of ways you could do this with the government. I don't think the third-party body that we choose to arbitrate our decisions really matters here. So, for instance, I could see the government coming here. Like, here's a funny meme idea. Actually, Pete Buttigieg said something that I thought was funny. Here's a funny meme idea. The government comes out and says, "Hey, every Saturday you are getting 4 hours mandatory community service." Well, what does that do? Every Saturday, you have to go and show up with a group of 20 other people in your community. It would force you to socialize. It would force you to get out and move your body. And it would force you to clean up or do something positive in some part of your community, right? I think that, as stupid as that is, and as much as I personally would hate it, I think that that would actually be incredibly positive for 99% of people in the United States of America. That you have to go out of your house, you've got to move your body, and you've got to talk to people and socialize with people that you otherwise wouldn't. I think it'd be an incredibly positive experience for most people. That's something that the government could theoretically do. Religion could do that. Hey, every Sunday, you go to church. Every Saturday you go to temple or mosque or whatever. Like, you have to go out. You've got to see community members. You've got to participate in some ritual together. Like, I think it's a similar type of thing. I totally think that there's a lot of different things, or with Discord or with video games or with Facebook, or like, there are ways that you can bring people together and get them out and active and doing things. I don't think it necessarily has to come from one type of thing. It could come from a lot of different places.
You don't see the problem, though, with government being in charge of that?
Who cares? Why does it matter if it's government or corporations or like religious groups? Like,
well,
like, I'm actually curious. What's the difference there fundamentally for you? Like, what makes it bad when? So because I'm trying to trap you now. So I'm telling you how I'm going to try to trap you. Okay. I'm going to ask you, what's the difference? I'm just warning you so it doesn't sound like I'm trying to get you, right? I'm going to ask you, what is the difference, or why is it so bad that when government does it? And then when you answer that question, I'm going to look to see if I can apply that to corporations as well. So when you say, I think it's bad when government does it because they have so much power, then I'm going to say, okay, well, Facebook and Twitter, we agree, has so much power that we want to like nationalize them almost. So don't you think the other way, right? So what I'm asking you is, why do you think it's so bad when government does it, but not when another one of these, like either religion or private company, does it instead? Yeah, go ahead.
It is bad when a company does it. You're right. But I'm not. I guess what I'm saying is you lose. Okay, with a religion, you have the. There is no policy behind it. It's just like a cultural thing. But government is governments can mandate things. They can make policies for things. There's more of a, your heart is not in it because you're not doing it out of choice as much. You're doing it out of necessity. You're doing it out of fear even.
Yeah. So like the analogy that I would draw here. So I used to be a practicing Catholic. I would say that religion is literally the exact same way. So government policy ideally ought to reflect the general will of the American people. in my opinion. Like, where that, well, no, it does. That's where the policy comes from, right? But much the same way, religion kind of shifts over time and adapts to the wills of its congregation as well. Like, in terms of Catholic shit, like, a lot of Catholic policy has changed over time in response to, you know, pressure from its members to change things. So, for instance, like the best thing I can think of for Catholic stuff is growing up in the 90s, the acceptance of gay people into parishes was a super fucking divisive issue early on. And by the time I got out of high school, I think almost every Catholic church that I was aware of had basically adopted the mantra of hate the sin, not the sinner. If you're gay, please come to our church, right? So, like, that's an example of like policy slowly changing over time. And it happens with the government too, I think.
Yeah, I wonder. I'm curious. What was your experience like with psychedelics?
Absolutely, unbelievably mind-blowing. It was the most insane experience I've ever had in my entire life. But that's like a whole other different. That's a whole other.
Well, I ask that because I guess I think there is something to talking about things in. I don't know. Maybe our approach to life is just like when we're talking about all these things, it seems like there's these paths that we can go down, like authoritarianism or socialism or both, or just complete civil unrest. And I think what's lacking is some sort of higher purpose, some sort of higher meaning in people's lives. And I think a lot of religion and stuff has failed us in the past, or is just not enough for people right now. And I keep viewing the one good silver lining of all this is that we're getting like the decriminalization of certain of psychedelics and stuff in certain places, in these very liberal places. Actually.
I just did like a 4-hour like pre-conference call. Have you ever heard of MAPS?
Yeah, I watched you do some of that.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool shit.
Exciting.
Yeah, I'm equal parts happy and equal parts incredibly fucking angry that it has taken so fucking long to get any type of medical research related to psychedelics. We had this 60-year dark period in pharmacology where we just didn't give a fuck about the effects of like LSD, mushrooms, ketamine, MDMA on the mind. And it is a crime, like, to every depressed person that killed themselves, to every person that has been fighting every single day of their lives against major depressive disorder, treatment-resistant depression, PTSD, that they didn't have access to even trials of these drugs because of our weird fucking conservative outlook on how horrible things are, like LSD, while we kill ourselves with alcohol and tobacco. It's an incredibly fucking frustrating thing to me. But anyway.
Yeah, hopefully that stuff gets more and more research. I know they're doing some trials with that, and hopefully it, you know, there have been really good results so far in helping people with those things. I'm sure you know all about it. And again, like, that's something that I have to credit someone like Joe Rogan, as corny as it sounds. Like, he's really brought that into the mainstream. He's helped do it. You talk to any of those people working in that field, I'm sure they'll notice the impact he's had.
Probably,
you should try to get on his show or something. Have you thought about that?
Yeah, obviously, of course. I've got a ton of mutuals that have been on. I just haven't had the chance to yet. I kind of think I should try DMT first, because it would be fun to talk about. But yeah, maybe someday. Yeah, I'd like to.
Yeah, DMT is more like I've heard DMT is more like it puts you somewhere else, whereas shrooms are more like you go deep within yourself.
Kind of. I mean, the thing I'm most interested, I don't know in terms of your experience, the thing that I'm most interested in is that I've had 2 really extreme, really high dose shroom trips, and the descriptions I hear about DMT sound similar to that. So I'm interested in trying DMT because I want to see how different the experience is. I just need to make sure that my mind is healthy first, and I still haven't fully recovered from my 2 other shroom trips, so waiting for that.
How many grams did you do?
This is such an unbelievably irresponsible thing, but the first time was 10.5. Yeah, it was just so, because I didn't believe that like shrooms were even a real thing. So I took 3 normal doses for trips, and I was like, yeah, fuck it, let's see what happens. And yeah, holy shit. And then I had a second accidental like ego death level trip because me and Melina were eating shrooms, and we had gone through like 3 or 4 grams, but it had been 2 hours and we hadn't felt anything. And then by the 3rd hour, we just like finished what we had, which ended up being like 6 or 8 grams each. And then it started to kick in. And then that was like a second, like, oh shit. But yeah, both of those trips are obviously insanely mentally excruciating. But
yeah.
But really
Well,
fucking interesting. It's the disappointing or interesting thing to me about psychedelics is that even on normal doses, psychedelics are like a window into a whole other world that most people don't know exists. It's like the closest thing you'll ever get to like magic on the planet that is just like right there in a really easily and cheap accessible form that a lot of people have like never looked at before. It's really interesting to me.
yeah, because you strike me as a very logical kind of thinker, detail oriented kind of thinker. Whereas, well, I don't know. I feel like with shrooms and with psychedelics, the feelings you get and the thoughts you get are kind of not like that at all. They're very feeling based, emotion based, existential, that kind of, these more ethereal concepts outside of yourself kind of concepts. Is that, did you find that to be true?
100%. One of the things that I learned the most on psychedelics is that I feel like in my normal day-to-day life before psychedelics, I would have assumed that about 90% of what goes through your brain is stuff that you dictate, that you can think about, and you've got like this 5 to 10% kind of like mood or vibe underneath you that can have can throw your thoughts off a little bit. But for the most part, you can rein it in. And then after psychedelics, I flipped that entirely. I feel like your mood or your vibe is like probably 80% of your underlying thought, and then you've got like this 10 to 20% on top that you can kind of control, but you have to make sure that your emotional or mood side is kept in check because it can totally destroy and dictate and overthrow everything else that you're thinking about on a higher level. With that same kind of understanding, I got a much deeper appreciation for people dealing with mental illness, for instance.
Have you put any thought into the idea of the collective unconscious?
No, I don't believe in any of that shit. It's some Jungian bullshit, but what about it particularly, I guess? That mushrooms, even though I've had some pretty huge trips, they didn't really make me any more spiritual or any more religious or think about anything like that. More just they've given me a greater appreciation for the depth of the human mind or the parts of the human mind that aren't immediately accessible without taking some substance to get there, I guess.
Well, when you say ego death, I think whatever you is, when you have that ego death, it's exiting yourself and going into some sort of, I think that's going into some sort of collective unconscious or some sort of something that exists outside of you, right? Like there has to be something that ego death means that whatever you is no longer inside of your first person point of view.
I could totally sympathize with somebody that would view it that way because it definitely feels that way. That's just not my perspective on it, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. My perspective is that basically, as a human being, we're kind of like a computer. We run an operating system that is how we view things, and that's just we see the world in ways that we take for granted. We don't really think about like our mind's ability to keep track of past and present, like time. That's not something we ever think about. We just kind of do it automatically. We remember about how long things have gone, and that when you take a sufficiently high dose of psychedelics, you start to break down a lot of those automatically running processes, and then you strip down and you see the code, you see the compiler, you see the assembly, you see the binary, and that like when you get way deeper, it's like I don't know what I'm looking through because it's not me anymore. And what you realize is that what you are is like an amalgamation of processes that you've disrupted with a drug. Now, when you disrupt those processes, I totally could sympathize with somebody that's like, it feels like I've become part of like a collective unconscious. It feels like I've come because you're not whatever you thought you were. But I personally, I just don't view it that way. I just view it as a disruption of all those processes that you kind of like take a look at like something that is far different and alien than what you thought was there before. It's kind of how I view it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think more people could really benefit from stepping out of their conventional ways of thinking, because most people like that's what it's often labeled as a political term like red pilling or whatever, but the point is just that in the original analogy from the Matrix of like waking up to a greater truth about your reality, about yourself, about how you think, about how you are, it's just more self-awareness, really, right? Like that's kind of what it comes down to, is just way more self-awareness.
Yes. I think a lot of people don't have a really good understanding of themselves, and I think a lot of problems stem from that. Almost everything that we've talked about in this conversation, in my opinion, stems from a problem that we have where if you ask the average person, what does it mean to be happy or what would make you happy? Most people are going to give you the answer that society has kind of fed them over the past like 10, 20, 30 years of their existence. And the problem with that is that's not always the right answer for everybody. And this is why you get a lot of people, in my opinion, that when they're 25, 30, they're working a job, all of a sudden it's like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I hate my job. I don't have any real friends. I barely have time doing what I want to do. Like, I got a job so that I could get a house in another city, so that I could get a more expensive, or so that I get a more worthwhile job to give me a bigger house so that I could afford a family. But I don't actually want any of these things, but these are the things that I've been told my time. Like, nobody actually spends any time thinking about, like, oh, what do I like? What makes me happy? What are the things that bring me joy? And when you don't know those things, right, the only people that fill them in are people trying to sell you products. Which I think is a huge problem with our society.
Definitely. Consumerism, materialism, people try to fill the void all the time with those things, and they're very fleeting.
Yeah, it's not good.
Have you thought about like having a family or something yourself, or what do you think about that?
I mean, like, if the opportunity presents itself, like maybe with my current fiance or whatever, I don't know. I feel kind of bad that, like, I don't know. I mean, like, I try to be involved in Nathan's life as much as possible, and I think that's probably the extent that I have for family right now. Maybe in the future, maybe in 5 years, that'll change. I don't know. It's hard to say. I really don't know.
Yeah. Well, anyways, I think we had a good conversation. Thanks for taking up my offer.
Yeah, no problem, buddy. If you ever want to talk, just let me know in the future, okay?
Yep. Good luck with your stream, and I hope to see you interact with more self-aware people.
I hope so, and I hope I'm not so incredibly disappointed, because every part of the internet that I've ran off to have conversations with people, it ends up with me leaving that with a whole bunch of bridges burnt and a whole bunch of emails from people saying, holy fuck, until you started to interact with these people, I thought they were smart, and I'm so disillusioned by how fucking insane they are. It's happened now with people on the right. It's obviously happened with people on the left. I guess I'll be venturing into talking to people who are the Tim Pool-esque types, and we'll see if they're as intellectually bankrupt as the commies and the alt-righters are.
Yeah. All right. Well, good luck.
All right. I love you, bud. All right. I love you all very much on here. Glink is banned from Twitch, so I had to stream this on YouTube. So I'm going to head over to my Twitch channel. I'll read super chats. Oh, fuck. I don't even know how to see it, like a record of those. Can I see a record of those somewhere? Oh, I can answer like a few questions from YouTube chat if you want for a little bit. Why not duo stream? I need to set it up. I just don't have it set up yet. I will be multi-streaming soon, though, between here and Twitch, I think, once my Twitch partnership gets fucking revoked, so, which is in a few weeks. So, go to DN under settings to find the super chat. What is DN? It's in the YouTube live stream dashboard. I see stream settings, analytics, viewer activity. Oh, is this it? Viewer activity? Okay, sorry, I'll read through these. Don't donate super chats, though. But just ask questions in chat or donate on my website, motherfuckers. Okay. I can't believe Google's taking 1/3 of this. $2. Oh my god, dumbass. Daniel Mishkoviak. What's the make and model of your digital piano? Oh, this? It's a really old Casio, and this thing is literally... I bought this thing at a place called Keyboard Castle in Omaha. My first fucking credit card. I bought this when I was in college. This is a really old keyboard. I can't believe it still works. And it sounds nice. I can hook it up to my computer. I like this keyboard. It's lasted a long fucking time. But you probably can't find it on the market anymore. It's literally like 15 fucking years old. What's the make model of digital? Okay, finally time for YouTube fans to shine. Thank you. Myla Ball. Apollo 21 donates $9.99. Why would you just donate $10 to get to the next color, you dumb fuck? Hi, welcome to YouTube. Debate Ryan Dawson again. I would rather eat my own fucking dick on stream. Madgun 8. Love you, Destiny. Keep your head up, champ. Cool. I suppose keep my head down. Samuel. Close I can get to a sub button soon. I think we'll have sub buttons soon. Okay. Why is my shit getting attacked? Sorry, I'm playing Factorio. Am I good enough yet for you, Daddy Steven? I'm paying for your content now. The Disabled Cube. Thank you. Marcus Aurelius. Thumbs up. Donated CHF 195. What? To USD. How much money is that? $2. Good job. The Lax. Welcome to YouTube, my dude. Well, thank you. Legendary Abyss. In before Destiny streaming YouTube screws Bosch's viewers / income. Cosmic Karma. I have no idea if I would compete with Bosch's viewers or not. There's probably a bit of overlap, but I don't know if there'd be a lot or not. Lag X. Dancing bird with a fist emoji thing. This is stupid. Fuck you. John Doe, Soyboy Steven, Christos Markieltos. What the fuck? You sound like a Japanese RPG villain. The government is in a social contract, and its purpose is to care for its citizens. Cool. Michael, some support for the transition. Keep up the great work. I was going to make a joke, but I think it would have been inappropriate, so never mind. Welcome to YouTube Destiny. All hail capitalism. Hello, fake person. ZAR, $35 in ZAR. What the fuck is ZAR currency? Oh, South African Rand, $2. The length of the vector returned by a cross product equal to the area of the triangle described by the input vectors. Good job. Next donation, same guy. ZAR, $14. ZAR is South African Rands. Lemmy Winks. Good job, Lenny. Dumb fuck. Spider Pig donated. Ooh, Spider Pig. Why can't I pog in this chat? You can pog. He just won't pog back at you. Deck Ape. Wait, where did that go? Big government is a bad idea, and it's proven to fail. The state needs less power, and more responsibility needs to be put back into the common people. Yes, of course. All those big governments across the world that are failing so horribly right now. Trump stated he'd reduce the national debt by eliminating waste in federal spending / cost containment. It seems neither of you know his economic plan. I know Trump's economic plan. I listened to Trump talk about his economic plan. One of the ways that Trump talked about shoring up the $800 billion shortfall in some of our non-discretionary spending was by getting rid of the EPA. That is an annual operating budget of $8 billion, okay? Don't sit here and pretend like Trump has any fucking idea about saving money in government, okay? Suck all the dicks plugged in. Also, thank you for your $4.99 donation, you stupid fuck that supports Trump. I'm glad when you walk, you know what? You know what the great thing about being wealthy is? And a Democrat is that when you dumb motherfucking Republicans walk in and vote for Trump, one of two things can happen. Either Biden wins and the country moves in a better direction, and then I get to jerk off like, oh, my guy won. Or Trump wins, you guys can jerk your shit off, and then you can all remain perpetually poor and fucked while people like me get massive fucking tax cuts, huge payouts from the government, from the PPP, Trump's little PPP shit or whatever that passed through Congress. I got more money from that than any of you fuckers did in chat, and I'm the one that needed it the least. Okay? So, hey, listen, at the end of the day, I call that a win-win, baby. Whatever happens, I'm taken care of. So thank you, Trump supporters, for making my life a little bit better in one way or another. Trump stated he'd reduce the national... Okay, yeah. Trump is going to lose in a landslide. Biden, 2020, baby. Nice job. Glad you're on YouTube. What's up, YouTube squad? PawkMenFan123. $20. Wow. Hydra509. YouTube, baby. Glad to see your life here. Hope you succeed and grow here. Hopefully. YouTube squad, F Trump, Biden 2020. Wait, where did that? Oh, fuck, oh, God, we're looping. There's literally a whole chapter dedicated to social credit system in War on Normal People by Andrew Yang. Cool, Daniel Miskovic. I fucked your name up every time. I'm so sorry. Team Ice Cream donated a smiley face for 99 cents, so I shouldn't have even fucking read it. Boardroom Gaming. Wishing you all the best as you continue to manifest your destiny. Good one. Super chat time from Tim Tam, $2 Canadian, which I think is about 25 cents USD. Bender 844. Hey Destiny, you stop looking at chats during debate. It always makes things worse. Love ya. I don't think I was looking at chats during debate. Late to the party. Glad you're here, though. Even if you aren't. That was very deep. Corey AB donated $9.99. Why do you guys donate $9.99? Is there like a $9.99 button? Why not just donate $10? All the Canadians in chat aggressively correcting my obvious hyperbole of the evaluation recurrency. Thank you. Would you two... Oh, wait. Ann Arbor, Mississippi? What is MI? Is it... It's Mississippi, right? Just voted to decriminalize psychedelic fungi. Fungi or fungi? We argued about this, and I don't remember what we ended up on. In plants, this includes psilocybin, ayahuasca, peyote, and others. Cool. Ismail Serrano, $5. Which YouTube content creator would you like to debate / talk to? Whoever wants to, I guess, right? Everybody on the left and right is too scared to talk, so I guess we gotta run to the centrist. Steven Does Stuff. What are some good books to learn about economics? Literally, go into any fucking YouTube site or torrent site and just download like a 101 introductory to econ course. It'll help you with things. That's literally the extent of my econ knowledge, is like fucking some random 101 shit that I torrented off of fucking Oink and listen through it, okay? Just do it, okay? It helps. 2 plus cop more. I love you. BTTV emotes for Twitch, please. Just email me and I'll usually set them up. Lemmy Winks usually sets them up. Has Melina noticed any change in personality after your drug trip? I don't think I met Melina until after my drug trip, so probably not. Have you read Atlas Shrugged? I think I did a long time ago. There were 2 Ayn Rand books that I read. One was Anthem, which was like a short, like 100-page like short story about some dude that discovers ego on train tracks. I don't remember. And then one was about like a girl. It was a girl main character who was all about fucking libertarian ideas or some shit. But it's been so fucking long, and both of those books were so ideologically written. Ayn Rand is like reading like. If V for Vendetta was put into a book with all the same preachiness, that's like fucking Ayn Rand stories, okay? Isn't a lot of research being done on psychedelic stuff that we've known for years? We've just started recently, like within the past like few years, we've started like actually getting clinical trials for like ketamine and stuff. Like, use this money to iron your shirt. I think it's okay. I folded it out of the dryer. That's the most I'm gonna do. Okay, suck my dick, motherfucker. What am I doing? Good job, Destiny. People love to hate on you. I love to defend you. Thank you. Aggressive Destiny's Destiny. Here's for some YouTube simp money. Thank you, Joseph. $9.99. Modernity versus traditionalism. What side of the debate would you be on, and who would be a good opponent? I'd love to talk to Jordan Peterson about shit. I'm a big modernity dude. But there are some good things. There's a reason why some things are traditional, so it's good to understand that as well. DSP is dancing on your Twitch grave. Imagine being less successful on Twitch than Darkside Phil. No offense, I don't think DSPs can dance on anything. Bunny Man. Hey, Destiny, so you lost your partnership. Looking forward to seeing more of your debates in the future. Much love.
Prime sub pep hands.
Wait, where the fuck was that donation that it showed up on my stream? I have no idea. Hey, Destiny, so you lost your partnership. Looking forward to seeing more of your debates in the future. Much love. Thank you, Bunny Man. If Rogan and Jordan B. Peterson had a child, you would get Glink. Nice one. Stewart. Binge watch. Ooh, wins. Tom Spaghetti. Great discussion. Thank you for having it. Cool. Tim Tam. Here are 5 more American cents. CID $2. Gina Dam. That's her name. I didn't say that when seeing her picture. Big fan. Was just listening to your IH vid. Couldn't you replace IH?
Steven feels weird, man.
With not contradict yourself as a way to simplify it for others. Just a thought. Internal happiness. Oh, my more. Well, no, I mean like that. I'm just saying at the end of the day, we all look for things to make us happy. Is what I'm appealing to. I don't think we at the end of the day we look for consistency. I think at the end of the day we look for things that make us happy. Yeah. Carrie Fornia. Use this money to iron your shirt. Where the fuck are these noises coming from? These must be like subs or something on Twitch. Oh, it is. That's where it's coming from. Okay. Offline Twitch subs, yeah. I have to do an IT project for my university. Do you have anything for me to do it on? Programming at Destiny. You should do a project on how STEM people should take more English classes so they don't fuck their spelling up when they donate money to other streamers. Shadows of Liberty, $5. YouTube game. Eschki. I don't know what that means. I hope that wasn't a racial slur in like Romanian or some shit. Hope YouTube makes you so big that Twitch regrets for your partnership. Love you, buddy. That's the dream. If I'm 1/8 black, can I say the N-word? Kind of. The rules on that aren't well understood, but if you're 1/8 black, you can actually say 1/8 of the N-word. So I think you can say the letter R because you'd take like, you'd slice off the part of the N and you'd be left with just the R. So you can say ruh. Good luck. Would you be... Oh. You talk to Devin Nash about your stream plans? No. Would you ever do a PPV debate type thing like Peterson versus Zach? I don't like the idea of making my debates pay-per-view accessible, but I guess if I had the opportunity to debate either of those people, I'd probably jump at it with a lot of conditions because it would obviously be a huge career move for me, right? And it'd be really entertaining for me. Hello, Destiny. Just wanted to give you some of my fake money. Hope you enjoyed your stay in Sweden. Thank you, Opera Cat. Love your streams. Good luck on the new platform. Thank you, Victor Porior. You should check out Restream from Stream. That's what I plan on looking at. Yeah. Fake person, $10. Here you go, Destiny. 10 more unemployment monies from the American taxpayers to you. Looking forward to more YouTube streams. Thanks, Ismail. Again, would you enable YouTube membership on your channel? I will, but I need to negotiate with my editors for YouTube because I don't want them taking a cut of my stream revenue here. They might be getting a cut of my super chat, so that can't happen if I'm going to replace my Twitch revenue with this. I don't want to make another cut on this revenue with my editors. Please continue what you're doing best. Welcome to YouTube. $20 from Doki Doki Kid Dango. Thank you. G% Destiny, you have a big nose. I don't know if there's so many dog whistles at the moment. I don't know what's real or not anymore. Would you retouch Jordan Peterson if he's ever back in the public eye? Of course I would. I would love to debate something like that. Can we get a PPP loan forgiveness stream the next few months? We miss you in Glendale. Oh. Oh my God. I called the apartment that I want to move to. This motherfucker said they have gigabit lines, one down, one up. Oh, fuck. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So hopefully we have a gig line. Although, honestly, that doesn't affect you guys much, so. Hold on one second, sorry. Who's attacking my factory? On YouTube, aren't you able to stream at high resolutions? Well, yeah, but like you're only going to notice that for gaming, not for like my political talks. Okay, boom, boom, boom. Okay. What is this? We're expanding our age restriction efforts on YouTube. Oh, God. We anticipate little to no impact on your video's monetization, as age-restricted videos are likely not suitable for all advertisers will have already been rated as limited or ineligible for ads. Okay, whatever. YouTube shit. Okay, sorry. You should talk to Sitch and Adam Friended about Sellout Tim Pool. Yeah, maybe.
Dubstep.
I don't get the 499 thing, but I'm in Florida, so
Prime is
yeah.
the best
Can't wait for you to
Prime.
join the fun
Keep
here.
it up.
No puedes
I miss
comprar
hearing Dan telling
amor,
others to
pero
shut
puedes
up, feels
comprar
fun.
un AR-15. What does that mean? I should know this.
You're a genius, dude!
After 32 months I shall finally be free. Bonus meme, the truly is the dankest dungeon.
What does puedes mean? Fuck, somebody remind me. Amor is love. No puedes comprar amor. Sounds like you can't buy. Comprar is to buy. You can't buy love, pero puedes comprar un AR-15. I don't know what puedes means. You can't buy love, but you buy a gun? Buy an AR-15? What does puedes mean? You can. Oh, you're able to. Puedes probably mean
Super chat.
ability. Oh. No puedes comprar amor, pero puedes comprar un... comprar... I can't roll my R's. Un AR-15. Gotcha. Cute. You should talk to Sitch, blah, blah, blah. Do you feel invincible in the debate world? Not really. Conspiracy theorists scare me. I think I would lose a debate to most conspiracy theorists about most topics. I don't think I could even debate like flat Earth. Like I think that people underestimate. I've done this sometimes as a sample. I'll usually say something like that. Like even flat Earth debates can be really, really, really hard if you're not like a physics PhD. And then everybody will disagree with me. It's like, okay, well, let's debate flat Earth. And I feel like I usually win those debates because it is actually really fucking hard. And then conspiracy theorists related to history and shit is just really fucking. I just don't know that much, and I don't care to learn that much. Like fuck that shit. Thoughts on a united Ireland? We'll see what happens. I don't think that's possible as long as Northern Ireland is part of the UK, right? Oh, Gina, just saying it's very hard to be a jerk if you have to follow a rule set of non-contradiction, even if you write your own rules. Well, no, you could be a jerk with non-contradiction. Like, here's a rule. I'm better than everybody else, and everybody ought to be subjugated to me, and I should do everything I can to pursue the people's subjugation of me. That's like a non-contradictory rule set, but it would make me a jerk to everybody, right? If you could only debate one, Jordan Peterson or Jesse Lee Peterson, again, probably Jordan Peterson. Your Discord is nice. Greetings from Brazil. Thank you. Pepe wins. You will perish in the Olympics. Listening to you gets me through my day. Love you, bro. Slevin, $20. Thanks, bud. What should Dems do to avenge Republicans' hypocrisy on the Supreme Court? Nominate more sluts on the Supreme Court? I don't know, man. Dude, Sean Carroll tweeted at a really good idea that we should just have rolling 8-year nomination periods for Supreme Court justices. Every 18 years, one steps off and a new president gets one. Not every 18 years, but like every one would be on 18 years to be staggered. So every presidential term gets like one new Supreme Court justice. Because right now, playing the Supreme Court lottery is dumb as fuck. Trump got so lucky. Three Supreme Court justices? Oh my God, in one term? Holy shit. In one term. Damn. Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and then who's going to be the third? I wonder if he's going to go way more extreme since the other two kind of fucked him and he didn't get the partisanship he was looking for. Can you unban me on Twitch? You banned me for saying you have a big booger nose. Just email my unbans. You can get I'm not going to unban you. Unbans at Destiny.gg to get unbanned because you might have said some weird shit and I'm not going to unban you. Wish you the best. Have you gotten better at composing melodies? Nope. Have you thought about doing more involving music, like more composition? I need to publish my next composition. You know what it is. I just haven't done it yet. Reed, $10. Sorry about the Twitch thing, but I'm actually super stoked you're coming to YouTube and I hope it works out for you. Your content has been some of my favorite over the years, man. Hang in there. Thank you. Stuart, are you over meta ethics at this point? Always fuck meta ethics. Hey, Destiny, just curious what should happen with the Supreme Court vacancy. I mean, if I was a Republican, I would do everything in my power to fill it. It's the Supreme Court. If I was a Democrat, I'd do everything in my power to stop it. So I mean, that's just how it goes. Thoughts on antinatalism? Fuck antinatalists. If you're so antinatalist, go off yourself, all right, in a video game. Okay. Do you read Foreign Policy? They have daily newsletters for people who just want to stay up to date with current events. That's many hours reading. I have not. Maybe it would be a good thing to check out. But okay, listen, I'm leaving here. I'm probably going to talk to the perspective philosophy guy next. It's been fun. I love you guys. I am leaving to go on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Destiny. Hey, if you want to join a cool community of people, destiny.gg. I think you can like link your YouTube account. You don't have to like make a password or anything. You can chat in my chat room there. People there are pretty chill. That's where most of my community is.
Dubstack.
Oh,
and yeah.
my God. Chat. DGG bitch chat YouTube chat.
Thank you. Okay, I love you guys. It's been fun. See you later. Peace out.